the keynote, we are going to Anna Baird, who is the Head of Culture and Innovation and Customer Success at Google. A very warm welcome, Anna.
Thank you so much, Hendrik. Delighted to be speaking with you today.
So Anna, tell us, who are you really and what is your role at Google today?
Absolutely. So I am our Head of Culture and Innovation in our Customer Success team in Cloud at Google. And really what that role has meant for the last 6-7 months that I've been in it, it's a brand new organization within Google Cloud Customer Successes. Mm-hmm. And one of our biggest focuses as we mature as a business is to remain focused on what our customers need. So customer centricity is a term we hear often in the technology business, in any business really, because our customers and our consumers drive who we are, what we build for them, whether it's products or services. And so at Google Cloud, one of our main slogans that we often talk about internally, you'll hear employees across the board talk about it, is empathy for our customer. Mm-hmm. So what is a bank doing? What do they need to do to serve their customers better? Yep. When we work with a pharmaceutical company, who are they trying to help in terms of care? Or, in recent times, immunizations has been a major conversation during this pandemic. And so as we look to different industries, mm-hmm. my role in the customer success team is to help unpack some of Google's best practices. So we've done a host of research internally on culture and innovation and change management and transformation. And so what can we share that we've learned in our research? But more importantly, how is that applicable to all of the businesses out there? We hear a lot, not every business can be like Google. And we understand that. We want to be able to share some of the ingredients of the things that we've learned from, and those can be, positive studies that we've run. They can also be failures that we've seen, and we call it open sourcing at Google. So my role is really to open source some of the learnings, some of the best practices so that other companies can apply those innovation frameworks.
So you can really give us a behind the scenes of innovation.
I'm hoping to, Hendrik.
Sometimes Google is called an engine of innovation. So what are the most important pillars, let's say, of innovation at Google?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually start with focus on the user. So that's one of our main innovation pillars. You'll often hear about us also talk about freedom to innovate and our 10x thinking. But if I focus on the user element for a minute, if you think back to Google's early days, so before Google Cloud specifically, and just back to initial Google days with Larry and Sergey, the search capability has often been adapted. It's been, what we call launch and iterate internally based off of feedback that we've received from you, our users, our consumers. And so this whole mantra of focus on the user is really about what can we do to make the best experience, to really enable, to help our consumers be most efficient when they're coming to source information. And so really the start, those early days where Google was trying to provide you the opportunity to go and search a historical fact or to go and find a new restaurant. If you think about how the user interface has changed, that UX precision has come down to when you go and you search a restaurant, we now provide you the opening times, the distance to get there. Will that restaurant be available to you when you park your car and go in to pick up your food? Can you call ahead and place an order? Can you do that by the click of a button? All of these different and new and interesting pieces of data, we're a data-driven business, are provided to you to make your consumer experience the best. And so that same application now, when we think about what we do with our customers in Google Cloud, applies. We want to help them, our customers, be data-driven. We want to help them focus on their customer. And so part of that transformation can come from a series of things, but it's about us, using a methodology, using an approach to help our customers think differently about the people that they're serving, the customers that they're serving.
And could you give an example of how Google helps its clients to be really customer-centric?
Definitely. One of the major frameworks we use to all be on the same page within Google, and specifically Google Cloud, is our design thinking methodology. So that's 5 steps: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. And so when we all internally as Google employees speak that language, you can show up in a whiteboarding session with a team and you can say, let's define these 5 steps. Let's make sure that the user is the start of where we are trying to solve, whether we're solving a problem, we're trying to predict the future, we're trying to segment. We use that framework. And a great example would be, working with a construction company at the moment and providing that construction business a view to, in the pandemic, if your employees are going to come back to work, you have 2 sets of employees. You have office employees and you have construction site-based employees. And so thinking through this design thinking methodology, you would start with those 2 personas and you would think through, what does their work look like? What data do we have internally that tells us what the average day is, where they're commuting from? And then applying now, especially in the pandemic, these new rigors, these new processes we have to follow, we can help that construction business use their information, especially supported by all of our data crunching capabilities in the cloud services. We can help them put those insights together to serve their 2 employee bases. And so one thing Google's very big on is launch and iterate. So coming up with almost a blueprint or a plan, applying that to those 2 personas as an example, and testing it, seeing what feedback you get. Launch and iterate is about taking the feedback in and tweaking or changing that blueprint. And so in some cases with our customers, they will do this over and over again, and they'll use us as a sounding board to say, how could we think differently? How could we go to the edge, or what we call the art of impossible? What could make an exceptional employee experience for someone who's coming back to a construction site so that they feel safe and secure to do their job? So that's a little bit about the design thinking methodology and how we apply it or help our customers apply it in their businesses.
Okay. So Anna, the technology leaders of today, CIOs, CDOs, CTOs, they are crucial for the innovation imperative that companies are facing. So how do you see the role of the CIO today?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, big question. Question we get asked a lot. I think I'm going to boil it down to one key area, certainly not the only part of the CIO role, but one area I think is really important. So CIOs are responsible for leading and directing the workforce in their specific organization. And that's a tall order, right? That's a lot that you have to be thinking about. But there are 2 consistent themes that come up when we talk to our customers. So one is collaboration and the other is efficiency. And I think that especially during the pandemic, collaboration has never been more difficult or more important. Virtual environments especially. And we see that in our own research at Google. Prasad Sethi, who is our VP of People Operations, talks a lot about the recent return to work surveys and the people pulse elements that we've been doing at Google, just to understand how employees are feeling. And so collaboration, for a minute, when I think about my Google Cloud world, collaboration often is about tools and platforms and the culture that comes with using them. So you can provide the best platforms to help employees elevate their thoughtful ideas faster, and you can enable other employees to help qualify and validate those ideas through these tools. Now, I think the challenge for CIOs is, how do you create that cultural appeal that people want to collaborate, and that it's not a land grab or an individual contributor mentality. And so one particular thing that I often talk about when it comes to what Google's done is enabling every employee to be an innovator, a creator. And that has two elements to it. It has a lot of psychological safety behind it. So talking about ways that employees have a voice, that they can speak up if something has been heard or said that they do not agree with and they want to raise that. We have a program internally called Go Say Something, where you can go to a platform and raise that up to various levels of the organization to make sure it's addressed to your comfort level so you can bring your whole self to work. But equally, we have a program called the 20% program, and that's all around allowing an employee to have a great idea and then giving that employee the opportunity to take that great idea to just 5 other employees. And so your next step is, I've got an idea, I'm going to go talk to 5 people around me to help validate and qualify that idea. And if those people give me great feedback and they want to get on board with me, they will back me to go to a committee or a group within Google that then can formally work with that person's manager to find an opportunity for them to use up to 20% of their time to actually go and build a prototype or build that type of service as the next step for this great idea. So bring it to life.
Yep.
And so, you know, in this type of program, you can only imagine that great ideas pop up all the time across the company. And some of these ideas that were pet projects have actually become products that Google has ended up taking to market, like Gmail as an example. Yep. And so that's collaboration there as an example. Efficiency is a completely different ballgame, where within Google, within the realm of everything that's happening, we want to be data-driven as much as possible to do things like blameless postmortems. So, you know, coming back to that psychological safety, which is a huge part of the cultural impact of collaboration, you know, psychological safety also exists in efficiency. And one of the ways Google realizes that is blameless postmortems. So, you know, Hendrik, in this case, it's less about who did the actions, and it's more about what were the actions that were taken and what was the impact. So did it have a positive impact on our customer? If it didn't, why not? And what could we change in the future? So there's less pointing of fingers, less about this person did this, this group did that. It's more about, as the collective, what were the actions we took and what worked and what didn't? And so those are sort of 2 examples that hopefully are practical, but it's a huge feat to be a CIO right now, because you have to be thinking about that constant balance between collaboration and efficiency. And that's a hard line to
So you see it as the fundamental role of the CIO to provide that environment of safety, of transparency, of speaking out, of giving people the freedom to innovate and so on. That's very interesting. So Anna, with that, I would like to thank you for your view behind the scenes on how innovation is organized at Google. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hendrik. It was a pleasure.